They did not tell us to mention that. That's just something that we use. I want to mention one other thing, and this is taking us out of order, but it popped into my mind because you really have, as aware as I am of everything here, you changed my behavior in the last week on something. Okay. And here's what that category is. What is the challenge with the paper cups that we go out in the morning? And I'm not getting coffee from Starbucks. Nothing wrong with that. There's a great Starbucks across the street. I go to another little bougie boutique coffee shop down the street. I like to make coffee at home, and that's my preferred method. But every so often, I like to walk with my wife, and we'll go and get coffee together. When we go and get coffee, we get a paper cup. Amazing. It's a hot coffee. We don't have plastic. We have a paper cup. We smile. We drink that coffee. Usually takes us a little while. We're nursing it for a little while. What is one of the reasons why I might want to, and that I have been reconsidering getting coffee in that paper cup?
Unfortunately, the paper cup is lined with a thin layer of polyethylene plastic. So a lot of people would believe that the paper cups that you're getting are lined with wax, but that simply isn't true. The wax coatings are for what I've seen when you buy water cups, usually with cold beverages. I would surmise that the reason is that the hot liquid could melt the wax. Maybe that's why, I'm not sure. But it seems that more cups out there now are no longer lined with wax, but with plastic. And that plastic has been shown in studies to leach microplastic particles into your hot beverages. And so most people how long do you think it would take to drink a beverage? Like maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on how hot it is.
It takes me an hour.
Yeah, it
Sometimes
can.
I'll keep that coffee around for an hour.
Right, it can, right? It really just depends. And within 15 minutes, that study found that 25,000 microplastic particles are leaching into your drink. Not to mention, there's also heavy metals, lead, and so on that are leaching from those plastic linings, unfortunately. And that's not even mentioning the lid that goes on top. So as the hot liquid is passing through the lid, I would hypothesize that there's microplastic shedding there as well.
Yeah, I don't drink through a lid. That I'm good with. I convinced my wife when we originally, before she was my wife, and we were dating, we went out for coffee. I said, whoa, let me take that lid off for you. We're going to walk a little slower because we're on a walking date, but it's going to be better for your body if you're not exposing that hot liquid. So what should we do instead? It's not that we shouldn't go out and get coffee, right? And obviously there's, if we can get organic coffee and other stuff, because coffee has a bunch of different exposures to different things, but you're not telling us not to go out and get coffee. There's a simple solution. What's that solution?
The simple solution is to BYOM, bring your own mug or cup. I love getting coffee out. I don't avoid getting coffee because it's not organic. I understand it is what it is. I want to get that coffee out. I'll bring my own cup with me. Not only does it cut down on plastic waste or, single-use cups, but it also clearly will reduce my toxic load because I'm not swallowing tens of thousands of microplastic particles with that drink.
Do you approve of my Yeti mug over here?
Looks great. I noticed it and I was going to compliment you on that. So well done.
Amazing. I made some tea at home, some green tea, and I got this from some friends of mine at Human Co. So shout out to them for the mug. Okay, great. So that was a little sidebar, but it was an important sidebar because it's still one of those things that a lot of people get coffee every day. Some people are drinking 3 or 4 cups. We have no idea how many thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of microplastics somebody's accumulating over the course of a year or a lifetime. Now, I thought I knew a lot about the subject, and I would tell people about, hey, watch out for microplastics in tea and tea bags, and make sure you're using teas that don't have that. I'll get your opinion on that in a second. But I didn't really know about nanoplastics. What are nanoplastics?
Nanoplastics are smaller than microplastics. So microplastics can break down and become nanoplastics. And the issue with nanoparticles are that they can easily penetrate cell membranes, and the effects are pretty wide reaching. They can penetrate skin, so on and so forth. So if you're, applying nano products to the skin, it could be penetrating the skin as well.
Do we know of anything that helps us remove or encourage our body from removing microplastics? Does that go back to glutathione, or does glutathione not make a difference when it comes to these microplastics?
It hasn't actually been studied exactly how we can detoxify, but in general, what's happening with microplastics is oxidative stress and inflammation, both of which glutathione can help. So while we don't know the exact mechanism of detoxification, of practicing toxic avoidance, managing your glutathione levels, and right, that's going to help regardless.
Is there any way to independently, same way we would get blood work to look at our LDL or ApoB or our fasting insulin, is there any way to get a good sense of how you're doing as a glutathione producer? Like, are you doing well? Are you doing poorly? Is there any way to independently, as a biomarker or a measurement test, look at levels of glutathione inside of our body to get some sense of, hey, are we doing well or are we not doing well? Do we have any technology like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there are clinical tests out there that have been done. I personally haven't taken one myself, but I know that there's also tests that you can do to measure your toxin load as well. So I think that would be really interesting, is to measure your glutathione and measure your toxin load as well. That could be really interesting.
Do you know if any of these tests to measure toxins are available to people that are listening to this podcast as consumers? I know that there's tests that, clinicians will use to look at like heavy metals inside of the body. There's companies like Doctors Data that provides doctors laboratory tests to look at like heavy metals. There's a company called Genova that a lot of practitioners use. But are there toxin screenings that are out there that are available to the everyday consumer that's listening today?
Yes, I've actually seen one from a group called Million Marker.
Million Marker.
Yes.
Can we bring that up online?
I haven't used this one myself.
Okay.
But it measures endocrine disruptors and a lot of the toxins that we've spoken about today.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Looks like they have a little bit of a focus on pregnancy and fertility. So it's an at-home test. Looks like you probably do a urine sample.
It looks like urine.
And you send it in, and they're going to look at toxins that are there. Cool. Obviously, as you mentioned, you haven't used this before. I'm not familiar. People should do their own research and dig into it a little bit. But good to know that there's some resources that are out there. Yeah, there was another gentleman that reached out to me, and he runs one of the certification programs. And I get excited when I see people starting these different certification programs for an area that is not typically